Commander James Reed gripped the console as the diplomatic vessel shuddered under the impact of the alien cruiser's warning shot. Behind him, First Contact Specialist Lisa Morgan steadied herself against the bulkhead. "They're hailing us again," Communications Officer Tom Wilson announced, his voice remarkably steady despite the circumstances. "On screen," Reed ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the crystalline carapace of Admiral Crow, Supreme Commander of the Tektari fleet. The alien's exoskeleton glinted under the harsh lighting of their bridge, translucent plates, shifting with each breath of the methane atmosphere they required. "Human vessel," the translator rendered Crow's clicking speech. "Your presence in this sector violates Tektari's sovereign space. Surrender your ship and prepare for boarding." Reed straightened his uniform. "Admiral Crow, we're on a diplomatic mission, authorized by the Galactic Council. Our charts show this as neutral territory." The alien's compound eyes flashed with bioluminescent patterns that the translator interpreted as laughter. "The Council's authority ends where Tektari might begins. Your species is young and fragile. Surrender, and you may survive as study specimens." Lisa stepped forward. "Commander, the Tektari evolved on a high-gravity world with intense radiation. Their exoskeletons are natural armor, and they consider soft-bodied species inferior." Reed nodded, understanding. First contact with alien civilizations had taught humanity one universal truth. Evolution had taken wildly different paths across the cosmos. Some species developed thick scales, others poisonous spines or reinforced bone structures. Humans, with their relatively thin skin and exposed vulnerabilities, often faced immediate dismissal as soft prey. "Admiral," Reed responded, "we respectfully decline. Please consult updated Council navigation charts," which clearly, the transmission cut as another warning shot rocked the ship. "They're powering weapons for a direct hit," Security Chief Mike Davis reported. "Shields at 60%. Reed activated the shipwide comm. "All hands prepare for emergency maneuvers. First contact protocols have failed." The Tektari cruiser launched 3 boarding pods that attached themselves to the human vessel's hull, burning through the outer plating. "Breach in sections 4, 7, and 12, Davis announced. "They're sending boarding parties." Reed turned to his crew. "Remember your training. The Tektari have never encountered humans in combat. They think we're weak because we lack natural armor." He drew his sidearm. "Let's educate them about endurance, persistence, and adaptability." The first breach point exploded inward, as 6 Tektari warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall with crystalline exoskeletons covering their vital organs, stormed the corridor. They moved with surprising agility despite their armored bodies, wielding energy weapons designed to incapacitate. Davis led the security team in a tactical retreat, firing precisely aimed shots at the joints between the aliens' armor plates. The Tektari advanced confidently, clearly expecting the humans to fall quickly. What they hadn't counted on was human stamina. After 20 minutes of continuous combat, the first Tektari soldier began showing signs of fatigue. Their movement slowed as their metabolism, evolved for short bursts of activity, depleted their energy reserves. Meanwhile, the human defenders, though sporting minor injuries, kept fighting with undiminished vigor. "They're slowing down," Davis reported over the comm. Just as the xenobiology briefing suggested, their armor makes them strong but metabolically inefficient. Reed nodded grimly. Nature gave them armor because they needed it. Humanity evolved without it because we developed something better: persistence, healing, and adaptability. As the firefight continued, the truth became increasingly clear to both sides. The Tektari had evolved as apex predators, relying on overwhelming force in brief encounters. Humans, descendants of persistence hunters, had evolved for something else entirely: endurance. The first Tektari collapsed from exhaustion 30 minutes into the battle, its crystalline armor now a prison weighing it down. The others began a tactical retreat, their natural confidence shattered by an enemy that simply refused to tire or surrender. Admiral Crow slammed a crystalline appendage against the command console, sending fracture lines across its surface. "Impossible," How are these soft creatures still fighting? It defies evolutionary logic. The Tektari science officer, Pell, analyzed the incoming data. The human's physiology is unusual, Admiral. While they lack external defenses, their internal systems show remarkable efficiency. Their thermal regulation allows sustained activity that would exhaust our warriors. They bleed so easily, Crow clicked in contempt. Yet they continue fighting. That may be their advantage, Pell responded. Their circulatory system rapidly delivers healing agents to damaged tissue, and their wounds, they seal themselves temporarily. On the human vessel, Reed organized his crew into rotating defense teams. Unlike the Tektari, who needed rest after intense exertion, humans could maintain combat readiness by alternating personnel. Status report, Reed demanded as he applied a pressure bandage to a laceration on his arm. We've repelled the boarding parties at sections 4 and 12, Davis reported. Section 7 remains contested. 3 casualties, no fatalities. The Tektari seemed genuinely confused by our resistance. Lisa, who had studied xenobiology extensively, explained as she helped tend to the wounded. Their evolutionary history never required endurance. Their homeworld's predators are all ambush hunters, high-gravity specialists that strike quickly. The concept of being outpaced rather than overpowered is alien to them. In Section 7, Engineer Jack Thompson demonstrated another uniquely human trait. Trapped behind enemy lines with 2 junior technicians, he improvised defensive positions using materials at hand. The Tektari, despite their superior strength and natural armor, lacked this adaptability, following rigid tactical doctrines that became predictable. They're retreating to regroup, Thompson reported over the comm. They seem to have expected us to surrender after the initial assault. Reed smiled grimly. Humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to adapt. Throughout our history, we've faced predators faster and stronger than us, and we survived by outthinking and outlasting them. Aboard the Tektari vessel, Admiral Crow faced an unfamiliar sensation: doubt. The initial scan of the human ship had revealed beings with no natural armor, no claws, no significant muscle density compared to Tektari standards. By all evolutionary metrics, they should have surrendered immediately when confronted by superior biological specimens. Prepare the second wave, Crow ordered. Double the warrior count. Use maximum stimulants. The science officer's carapace rippled with concern. Admiral, stimulants will increase short-term performance but accelerate metabolic collapse, and our analysis suggests the humans haven't even deployed their advanced weapons yet. They're fighting defensively, conserving resources. Are you suggesting we retreat from prey species? Crow's bioluminescence flashed warning patterns. I'm suggesting we reassess, Pell replied carefully. These humans exhibit characteristics unlike any species we've encountered. They lack armor, not because they couldn't evolve it, but because they evolved something potentially more valuable: regenerative capacity and endurance. As if to punctuate this analysis, the sensors detected movement on the hull of the human vessel. Suited figures were emerging from airlocks, moving deliberately toward the attached boarding pods. They're counterboarding, the tactical officer reported with disbelief. The humans are attempting to take control of our insertion vehicles. Crow's compound eyes widened. Impossible. No species would voluntarily expose themselves to vacuum risk. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Human crew members wearing what appeared to be remarkably minimal protective gear compared to Tektari standards were systematically disabling the boarding pod's return mechanisms. Their environmental vulnerability should make them cautious. Crow clicked. Instead, they're using it as motivation for audacity. Jack Thompson had never imagined he'd be spacewalking during combat. Yet here he was, magnetic boots anchoring him to the hull as he methodically sabotaged the Tektari boarding pod's guidance system. Careful with those connections, warned his teammate Ben Miller through the comm. Their technology uses crystalline conduits that shatter if flexed. Thompson nodded inside his helmet. Found their equivalent of a navigation relay. Going to rewire it to our systems. Back on the bridge, Reed watched the operation via helmet cams. The Tektari are launching fighters, he observed. They're not accustomed to enemies who counterattack. Lisa studied the sensor readings of the alien vessel. Their life support systems are running at maximum capacity. Their metabolisms must be significantly higher than ours. They're burning energy at an unsustainable rate to maintain combat readiness. Reed considered this. So their natural armor comes with a cost. They need more resources to function. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. Evolution is about trade-offs. Their species prioritized protection over efficiency. Humans went the opposite direction. Our ancestors could run prey to exhaustion because we shed heat effectively and use energy economically. Davis, monitoring the tactical situation, suddenly straightened. Commander, I think I see a pattern in their fighter deployments. They're protecting a specific section of their ship, possibly a vulnerability. Reed leaned forward. Magnify that section. The screen showed a crystalline protrusion on the Tektari vessel's ventral side. That's their thermal regulation system, Lisa identified immediately. Most armored species struggle with heat dispersal. Their metabolism generates significant waste heat that must be expelled. A plan formed in Reed's mind. So if we can increase their metabolic rate while limiting their ability to disperse heat, their armor becomes a liability, Lisa finished. Like wearing a winter coat while running a marathon. Reed contacted the EVA team. Thompson, Miller, new objective. I need you to access one of those boarding pods and reprogram it to deliver a package to these coordinates. He transmitted the location of the Tektari heat exchanger. In space, Thompson received the instructions and immediately understood the strategy. We can use their own transport against them. These pods are designed to breach hulls. Within 20 minutes, the team had reconfigured a boarding pod's targeting system and loaded it with a specially prepared payload, an industrial catalyst that, when exposed to the methane atmosphere the Tektari breathed, would create an exothermic reaction. Package ready for delivery, Thompson reported. Reed gave the order. Launch. The reprogrammed boarding pod detached from the human ship and accelerated toward the Tektari cruiser, specifically targeting the thermal regulation system. The alien vessel's automated defenses, calibrated to detect incoming weapons, registered the pod as friendly and allowed it to attach. Inside the Tektari ship, Admiral Crow was receiving increasingly concerning reports. The human resistance wasn't weakening. If anything, it was becoming more coordinated and effective as time passed. How do they improve during battle? Crow demanded. All species should degrade in performance as combat continues. Before Pell could respond, alarms blared across the Tektari bridge. Hull breach at the thermal exchange, the tactical officer reported. Something's affecting our atmosphere, temperature rising shipwide. Crow felt the change immediately, a creeping warmth that signaled disaster for beings evolved for efficiency within narrow temperature bands. Their armor, so effective against physical threats, now trapped the increasing heat against their bodies. The humans, Pell realized with newfound respect, they've weaponized our own biology against us. As the temperature aboard the Tektari vessel climbed, its crew faced a crisis their evolutionary history had never prepared them for. Their exoskeletons, designed to protect against impact and radiation, now efficiently conducted and retained heat. Ship-wide temperature increase of 15 degrees, reported the Tektari environmental officer, carapace trembling with early signs of heat stress, metabolic function declining across all decks. Admiral Crow struggled to process what was happening. For a species evolved with natural armor, the concept of turning that advantage into a weakness seemed incomprehensible. The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system. All units converge on the human vessel, maximum firepower authorized. But the reinforcements would take time to arrive. Time the flagship's crew might not have as their environment grew increasingly hostile to their biology. Aboard the human ship, Reed watched sensor readings of the Tektari vessel with grim satisfaction. Their power output is fluctuating. They're diverting everything to environmental control. Their warriors are retreating from our decks, Davis confirmed. Apparently they've been recalled to their ship. Lisa studied the bio readings. The Tektari are entering a state similar to torpor. Their metabolism slows dramatically when overheated. An emergency conservation mechanism. Reed nodded. That gives us an opportunity. Prepare a boarding party. I want control of their bridge before reinforcements arrive. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Thompson had another idea. He approached Chief Engineer Alex Foster with a theoretical question about the ship's coolant system. If we could safely transport some of our liquid nitrogen reserves to their ship, Thompson suggested, we could offer them a choice: surrender or cook. Foster raised an eyebrow. Using our emergency coolant as a bargaining chip? That's either brilliant or insane. He paused, then grinned. I like it. Let's prepare a transfer system. The human boarding party, led by Davis, encountered minimal resistance as they moved through the Tektari vessel. Most of the alien crew were in various states of heat-induced torpor, their magnificent armor now weighing them down as they struggled to move in the sweltering atmosphere. They reached the bridge to find Admiral Crow and the command staff still functioning, but clearly suffering. The Admiral's normally iridescent carapace had dulled and movement appeared difficult. This is unprecedented, Crow clicked weakly. No species has ever boarded a Tektari flagship. Davis kept his weapon trained on the alien commander. We don't want to destroy you, Admiral. We're offering terms. Crow's compound eyes flickered with bioluminescent patterns that the translators struggled to interpret, something between disbelief and reluctant respect. What terms could prey offer Predator? The Admiral managed. Reed's voice came through Davis's comm, broadcasting to the Tektari bridge. We have cooling technology that can stabilize your ship's environment. In exchange, you will withdraw from the sector and acknowledge neutral space as defined by Galactic Council charts. Crow's carapace trembled with what might have been laughter or distress. You soft creatures. You've turned your vulnerability into methodology. You've studied our weaknesses because you must, because you have so many of your own. We call it strategy, Reed replied evenly. Natural selection on Earth favored endurance, healing, and adaptation over armor. Our ancestors weren't the strongest or fastest, but they could think, plan, and outlast. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, compound eyes taking in the human boarding party, standing comfortable and functional in an environment that was crippling the Tektari. Finally, the alien gave the equivalent of a nod. The terms are acceptable. The translator conveyed resignation in the clicks. Send your cooling technology. Reed signaled Thompson, who had prepared canisters of liquid nitrogen with controlled release mechanisms. Within minutes, the temperature on the Tektari bridge began to drop as the emergency coolant was introduced to their environmental system. 3 days after the confrontation, the human vessel maintained position alongside the Tektari flagship. Both ships had sustained damage, but repairs were underway as an uneasy truce held. In the conference room, Reed sat across from Admiral Crow, whose carapace had regained its luster after recovering from heat stress. Between them sat a holographic display showing Galactic Council territorial designations. Your species presents a contradiction, Crow clicked, compound eyes fixed on Reed. Physically vulnerable, yet functionally resilient in ways our scientists are still trying to comprehend. Lisa, serving as xenobiological liaison, explained, humans evolved as persistence hunters on a planet of extremes. Our ancestors could track prey for days, running them to exhaustion when most predators would give up after minutes or hours. Inefficient, commented Pell, who had joined the Tektari delegation. Energy could be better spent on developing natural defenses. Perhaps, Lisa countered, but our approach allowed for something else: technological advancement. Because we weren't specialized for specific environments or combat styles, we had to create external solutions: tools, clothing, shelter. Reed added, when you have natural armor, you might never invent the shield. When you have fangs, you might never develop the knife. The Admiral's carapace shifted in what the humans had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Yet evolution favors effective adaptations. Your species should have been outcompeted. What you see as weaknesses forced adaptability, Reed explained. Our skin tears easily, so we developed remarkable healing capabilities. Our bodies overheat, so we evolved efficient cooling through sweat. We lack natural weapons, so we created artificial ones. Thompson, invited to the meeting for his engineering perspective, offered an analogy. Think of it like ship design. Your vessels are heavily armored, powerful, but energy-intensive. Ours are more versatile, adaptable with redundant systems. The discussion continued as technical teams from both ships worked together on repairs. Human engineers marveled at the crystalline technology of the Tektari, while alien technicians studied the improvisational solutions humans employed. In the medical bay, Dr. Emma Ward was conducting an unprecedented exchange with Tektari Medical. Officer Ziv. The alien physician observed as Ward treated a crew member's laceration. The wound seals itself partially before your intervention, Ziv noted with fascination. Our injuries do not self-repair this way. Ward nodded while applying a regenerative compound. Blood clotting is just the beginning. Human tissue constantly renews itself. Some injuries that would be permanent for other species are temporary for us. Yet you die from wounds that would merely inconvenience a Tektari, Ziv countered. True, Ward acknowledged, but we can survive losing limbs that contain no vital organs. Our bodies reroute blood flow, fight infection, and adapt to new limitations. Many of us live with what you might consider catastrophic damage. In engineering, Thompson was explaining human endurance to a group of Tektari technicians. Our muscles don't have your strength, but they don't fatigue as quickly either. We can work at moderate intensity for hours or even days with minimal rest. A Tektari engineer clicked in disbelief. Our warriors require recovery periods after brief exertions. Your sustained performance defies our biological models. It's all about energy management, Thompson explained. Your armor requires significant metabolic support. Our bodies prioritize efficiency over protection. As these exchanges continued across both ships, a new understanding began to emerge. The Tektari, who had dismissed humans as fragile and inferior, were recognizing that different evolutionary paths could lead to different, but equally valid survival strategies. Admiral Crow, watching Reed move easily around the conference room despite injuries that would have immobilized a Tektari, finally asked the question that had been troubling the alien commander. If your species evolved without armor because you're tough, in different ways, what does that suggest about the galaxy's understanding of evolutionary fitness? Word of the unprecedented human-Tektari encounter spread quickly through Galactic Council channels. The incident report, detailing how an unarmored species had successfully defended against one of the most physically imposing races in known space, generated significant interest. 1 month after the initial confrontation, the human diplomatic vessel, now repaired and expanded with a Tektari technical exchange contingent aboard, docked at Celestial Station, the floating headquarters of the Galactic Council's scientific division. Reed, Lisa, and Admiral Crow were scheduled to present their findings to the Interspecies Evolutionary Conference, an event hastily organized after news of their encounter reached Council scientists. I never expected to become an evolutionary case study, Reed remarked as they approached the conference chamber. Admiral Crow's carapace shimmered with what the humans now recognized as amusement. Nor did I expect to advocate for the biological significance of a species I once dismissed as prey. The chamber was filled with representatives from 24 spacefaring civilizations, most possessing some form of external defense: scales, plates, shells, or exoskeletons. Humans, among the few soft-skinned species present, attracted curious stares. Dr. Voral, a respected xenobiologist from the 6-limbed Morax species, opened the session. Today we examine what may be a fundamental misunderstanding in comparative xenobiology. For generations, we've classified species with minimal external protection as evolutionarily incomplete or transitional. Recent events suggest this view requires revision. Lisa took the podium first, presenting data on human physiological capabilities. While humans lack the impressive armor of many council species, our biology offers different advantages. Our skin, though easily damaged, contains numerous sensory receptors providing environmental feedback that armor would diminish. Our healing rate exceeds that of most exoskeletal species by factors of 10 to 50. She displayed medical scans comparing recovery rates between humans and various armored species. Additionally, our thermoregulation system, sweating, allows prolonged physical exertion that would cause heat stress in many armored species. Admiral Crowe followed with an analysis of the tactical implications. The Tektari combat doctrine has always presumed that unarmored opponents would quickly succumb to fatigue or injury. Human endurance invalidates this assumption. Their recovery-focused physiology allows them to sustain combat effectiveness despite minor wounds that would immobilize other species. The Admiral's carapace shifted to a formal presentation pattern. Most significantly, humans operate effectively across wider temperature ranges than many specialized species. While our armor provides protection against physical trauma, it restricts adaptive capacity and requires significant energy to maintain. Reed then described the improvisation and tactical flexibility that had allowed his crew to counter the Tektari boarding parties. We don't have natural weapons or armor, so we've become experts at identifying and exploiting environmental advantages. Dr. Voral interjected with a question that captured the chamber's collective curiosity. Commander Reed, given the opportunity to evolutionarily develop armor similar to the Tektari, would humans be improved? Reed considered the question carefully. That assumes armor would be an improvement. Earth's evolutionary history tried armored approaches, many now extinct. Human endurance, dexterity, sensory acuity, and thermoregulation might be compromised by heavy external protection. Nature didn't skip armor for us. It selected for something potentially more valuable: adaptability. The chamber erupted in multilingual discussion as representatives debated the implications. Some armored species seemed disturbed by the suggestion that their evolutionary path might have trade-offs they'd never considered. Thompson, sitting in the audience, leaned toward Davis. They're having an existential crisis. Imagine spending millennia believing your natural armor made you superior, only to discover it might be limiting in ways you never noticed. Davis nodded. Makes you wonder what other evolutionary assumptions we're all making about each other. As the session continued, representatives from various species shared observations about human capabilities they had previously overlooked or misinterpreted. The Vandar, a reptilian species with heavy scales, admitted their initial dismissal of humans had cost them valuable trade opportunities. We assumed your physical vulnerability indicated technological immaturity. Their ambassador clicked through, a translator. We failed to recognize that your adaptability might produce innovation at rates our more specialized biology does not require. By the session's end, the conference had established a new research initiative: Comparative Evolutionary Advantages. Its mission was to re-evaluate species classifications based on capability profiles rather than superficial physical characteristics. Admiral Crowe approached Reed as the chamber emptied. Your species has catalyzed a significant shift in galactic thinking. The Tektari will be reassessing many long-held beliefs. Reed smiled. That's another human specialty. Challenging assumptions, including our own. 2 years after the human Tektari incident, the galaxy had changed in subtle but meaningful ways. The Comparative Evolutionary Advantages Initiative had published its first comprehensive findings, dramatically reshaping interspecies relations across Council space. Reed, now promoted to captain of the exploration vessel Resilience, stood on the observation deck watching stars streak by at warp speed. His new command included not only a human crew but also representatives from 7 species, including 3 Tektari specialists. Lisa, now science director, joined him at the viewport. The Arcturus mission is confirmed. We'll be the first joint species team to explore the nebula. Reed nodded. 2 years ago, the Tektari would never have considered a cooperative venture with soft prey. Now we're pooling our evolutionary advantages. The evolutionary complementarity doctrine has proven remarkably effective, Lisa agreed. Mixed species crews consistently outperform homogeneous ones in crisis situations. The doctrine, arising from the conference following the human Tektari encounter, recognized that evolution had created specialists optimized for different challenges. Rather than ranking species by arbitrary standards of advancement, the Council now encouraged complementary partnerships that leverage diverse evolutionary strengths. In engineering, Thompson supervised a remarkable scene. Human technicians working alongside Tectari specialists to integrate crystalline power conduits with traditional human technology. The humans' fine motor control and heat tolerance allowed them to make adjustments that the armored Tectari found difficult, while the Tectari could safely handle radiation levels that would harm humans. Adjust the resonance frequency by 0.3, Thompson instructed a human engineer who was making delicate modifications to a conduit. Beside them, a Tectari engineer named Mac held the potentially dangerous component steady with armored appendages. This integration would have been considered impossible before, Mac clicked. Our previous engineering doctrine insisted that vulnerable species couldn't work effectively with high-energy systems. Thompson smiled. And we assumed crystalline technology was too rigid for practical adaptation. We were both wrong. Throughout the ship, similar collaborations were unfolding. In the medical bay, Dr. Ward worked with Tectari physiologist Ziv to develop hybrid medical treatments that combined human regenerative techniques with Tectari protective compounds. Their research had already produced a revolutionary treatment for soft tissue injuries across multiple species. The application of Tectari mineral compounds in a human-style regenerative matrix has proven successful in 93% of test cases, Ward noted as she reviewed the latest data. Ziv's carapace rippled with scientific excitement. The compound would never have been discovered without the recognition that your healing mechanisms and our protective compounds could work synergistically. On the bridge, Reed found Admiral Crow, now serving as Tectari liaison to the Council fleet, reviewing mission parameters. Captain Reed, the Admiral greeted him. The Resilience represents the most significant advancement in interspecies cooperation since first contact. A ship designed to leverage the evolutionary strengths of multiple species rather than standardizing for one. Reed gestured around the bridge, where workstations had been customized for different physiologies. Humans provide endurance and adaptability. Tectari offer strength and radiation resistance. Vandar contribute visual acuity and thermal detection, each filling gaps in the other's capabilities. A living demonstration of what we now call evolutionary distributed intelligence, Crow agreed. No single species evolved for every challenge the universe presents. As the Resilience approached the unexplored Arcturus Nebula, Reed addressed the mixed species crew over the ship-wide comm. 2 years ago, a misunderstanding about evolutionary values nearly led to conflict. Today we enter unknown space not as competitors but as collaborators, each bringing unique biological gifts to our collective mission. The Tectari phrase strength in armor and the human expression strength in flexibility are not contradictory, but complementary. He paused, looking around at the bridge crew, some armored, some scaled, some soft-skinned like himself. Nature didn't skip armor for humans because we were deficient. It specialized us for resilience of a different kind, and it gave other species different specializations, not better or worse, just different. Together, we represent not competing evolutionary paths, but a collective adaptability greater than any single species could achieve alone. As the Resilience entered the swirling gases of the nebula, the sensors detected anomalous energy patterns that no single species technology could have identified. The collaborative systems, drawing on multiple evolutionary perspectives, revealed structures hidden within the cosmic clouds, ancient artifacts of a civilization that had perhaps learned the same lesson. Diversity of approach creates resilience that uniformity cannot match. Reed smiled as the discovery unfolded on the view screen. Nature skipped armor for us because we're tough as hell in our own way. And that way, it turns out, works pretty well alongside beings who evolved differently. Admiral Crow's crystalline appendage rested briefly on the human captain's shoulder, in a gesture that would have been unthinkable 2 years earlier. Perhaps the true evolutionary advantage is recognizing the value in differences rather than demanding uniformity. Reed nodded as the Resilience pushed deeper into the unknown, carrying its crew of evolutionary specialists united in common purpose. The living embodiment of strength through diversity. The end.